Welcome back to the second episode of Photography for Beginners. And we talk about mostly photography, but some of the skills and different information that we'll cover in this series also applies to videography as well. And we'll get more into videography later on. So today I just wanted to talk about photography for beginners in terms of getting your images out there and getting exposure and feedback. So there are a lot of sites out there that you can utilize in order to distribute your photography, whether it's Instagram and Twitter and all of that. But there's also sites such as Viewbug. Now, with Viewbug, they have a lot of different contests, but they also have feedback from fellow photographers. So if you're looking to ask questions and learn from other beginners right through to professional photographers, that is a great site for you to get on. And you can just Google Viewbug and other sites of that nature, and you can get a lot of resources there. But you can also experiment by looking at other people's work, and you can go into the information and look at what cameras they were using, what settings, shutter speed, all of that. And that can give you some ideas as to how they created certain effects, certain colors, just really capturing the essence of the moment or whatever story they're trying to tell with an image. And that's something to keep in mind, is that when you're taking an image or a photo, you want to be telling a story or evoking an emotion. And sometimes by evoking the right emotions out of a photo, you are allowing the viewer to create a story in their own mind. Now, people will create stories or impressions and emotions based on life experience. So, what you may be trying to tell in terms of a story through a certain setting, a certain lighting, a dark alley photo, or such, it can mean something different to other people. So, with that said, I will put up a few of my favorite images here beside me, and then you can feel free to respond about what you think about the images. And in future episodes, I'll actually come back to them and I'll explain to you why I really like the way the photos turned out and what I was trying to capture. And sometimes I end up capturing a totally different feel to the image than what I initially had planned for that shot. And that's something that you really need to understand with photography and videography, is that sometimes lighting will change, situations will change, and you capture something that you hadn't planned. But if you look at it and keep an open mind, you may actually find something even better and teach yourself something about the photo, about the settings that you use that maybe you hadn't intended to. Maybe your shutter speed was off, and different things that would create a very interesting image. And one of the images here that I will explain is one night taking a photo of a blood moon, and my nephew bumped the tripod at the moment that the shutter was open. And it actually created an interesting effect. So it looked like two moons, but that they were actually attached by this light that was just kind of going around and almost acting as a tether between the two moons. So it really turned out to be a neat effect and totally unintentional. So don't just quickly delete photos when an accident happens. Take a look at it and see what you've actually captured, and be open to that. Also, be advised that things are not always going to go right when you are planning photo shots and sessions. You may be outdoors and you're planning on good weather, but all of a sudden you're in the mountains and weather can change rapidly. So look for new opportunities. Don't just walk away uh, feeling disappointed that the sun didn't last as long as you wanted for the lighting. Look for new opportunities to get new images or things that you hadn't planned on, but also to use that as a learning moment. Play with shutter speeds, play with lighting, play with, everything in terms of experimenting, because that's going to be a very important lesson for you to learn as you continue to make progress in learning photography and learning your own style. And that takes me to the next point, is that don't be uh, feeling like you've got to fit in a box when it comes to the style and lighting. Don't be afraid to take chances and take risks, because that's how you're going to find your style. People in photography, the most successful, you can look at a photo and almost immediately recognize who the photographer was by certain styles. One of them would be Annie Leibovitz, and just phenomenal skill there. But you can almost always tell when a portrait's been done by her, and others. So just be yourself. Allow yourself to make mistakes and to learn from them, but also don't just delete the mistakes. Take a look at them and see what actually worked for you and what didn't. And you might surprise yourself and come up with some interesting images that you hadn't planned on. So that's also great. And I'll touch on one more of the photos that I'll include here as well. And then the rest I'll cover another time. But there was a young lady sitting at an outdoor cafe enjoying a glass of wine, reading a book, just sitting there very calmly. And what made that interesting was that I had just traveled from Kiev and Bucha in Ukraine during the war. The Russians had just pulled out of Bucha, so we were witnessing and documenting some of the war crimes that had happened there, the executions and other things. So a very dark time there. And after witnessing that, I traveled up to Lviv. And what captured this moment was just the peacefulness of this young lady. There's air raid sirens still going off, and the war is still happening in Ukraine, but she's just taking a moment by herself to sit at an outdoor cafe, enjoy a glass of wine, and read a book, and just really, it just looked so peaceful and calm in contrast to what was going on in the country around her. So that really to me touched a chord when I saw her sitting there, and I just had to capture the image. It was just one of those spontaneous, unplanned, unstaged moments that just, it was there, and I captured it. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you a bit of information about how to not box yourself in, but to play with settings, play with shutter speeds, play with lighting, and just experiment to find your own style. In the next episode, we'll actually talk about gaining more exposure and how to earn passive income with your photography, even at the beginner levels. And we'll discuss that in more depth and how you can go about doing so. Even as a novice or beginner photographer, there are opportunities for you to gain exposure and to make some money with your photography. So we'll see you next time. Again, it's James here from ProPix Canada Media. You can find me online at www.propicscanada.com. And I'll also have some resources. If you go to the website, click on resources, those will be geared towards people learning photography, and you can learn about the different websites and such, or find the links there to different websites where you can list your photography, make money, make products, just a lot of different options for you. You're not going to make enough to live on just by posting and having that residual income, but you will get royalty checks and payments over time that are always a bonus. Take care, everyone, and keep snapping the great images.